Arlene Geres, and I am so glad that you are here. Please remember to listen right until the very end because we have a special treat for you. And if you enjoyed today's video, please click like and subscribe below because this helps others to find us on YouTube. Today's lesson is lesson number 28. Above all else, I want to see things differently. Almost every lesson that we have studied so far has talked about seeing. Starting with lesson 1, nothing I see in this room, on this street, in this place means anything. All the way through until the last few lessons in which we were introduced to the idea that there's something wrong with our seeing. At first, that idea just seemed so foreign and so strange to most of us. As I said in those beginning lessons, I know people who threw their book across the room, who quit early on in those lessons, so bravo to you for sticking with it. I hope that these lessons are starting to make sense. It's really all about undoing our old way of seeing and learning a new way to see. Let's read today's lesson. Today, we are really giving specific application to the idea for yesterday. In these practice periods, you will be making a series of definite commitments. The question of whether you will keep them in the future is not our concern here. If you are willing at least to make them now, you have started on the way to keeping them. And we are still at the beginning. Let's talk about it. I love how this section says that we're going to make some definite commitments, but not be worried about whether we're going to keep them or not. As we go through the course, we will be working more and more on keeping our commitments. But for now, let's not worry about whether we'll be able to keep it or not. All we're being asked is to make the commitment. So if we have a teeny tiny bit of willingness to stick to this commitment, then we are on our way. That's all the course is asking from us right now. Remember, the course works in baby steps, bit by bit. If you look back to that very beginning lesson, nothing I see in this room, on this street, in this place means anything. I'm sure that you can see how you have shifted, how you're more aware of when you're caught up in projecting your old stuff onto what you're seeing in front of you. This is especially true of people. Oh God, here comes so-and-so. I better hide. That used to be my way of thinking, but I don't need to do that anymore. Now I say, oh, here comes so-and-so. Dear God, protect me from my own negative thinking. Help me to love them the way that you love them. Let's read on. You may wonder why it is important to say, for example, above all else, I want to see this table differently. In itself, it is not important at all. Yet what is by itself? And what does in itself mean? You see a lot of separate things about you, which really means you are not seeing at all. You either see or not. When you have seen one thing differently, you will see all things differently. The light you will see in any one of them is the same light you will see in them all. Let's talk about it. I have had to pause the video several times this morning because our gardener is cutting the lawn. I'm sure you've been able to hear the lawnmower in the background. While I paused the video, I just closed my eyes and asked my higher power, please show me what this lawnmower is really for. And what came to me was this lawnmower is to teach you to slow down, to take a pause, to do a few minutes of meditation, so that you can bring my message to the people who are listening. Let's read on. Several years ago, my friend Marianne and I did a tour of Peru. We had many wonderful adventures on that trip, but one of them was visiting Lake Titicaca. That's right, that's the place. It's one of the largest lakes in the world, and there are people living on that lake on floating reed islands. These are man-made islands, and they truly are floating. When you walk on them, they literally bounce. All of their homes are made of reeds, and they make all kinds of lovely crafts out of reeds. They first fled to the lake when the Spaniards invaded Peru. This was their way of hiding out on these floating reed islands, and the generations are still living there. Quite an amazing place. There are no tables there. Everything is made by squatting. Now, if you were born on that island and you never visited the mainland, you wouldn't know what a table was for. You might see people using it, and then you would go, oh, that's what that's for. But if you'd never seen a table, you would not know what it was for. You might think that it was a shelf for stacking books or putting things on, but you might not put it together that it's for eating on. I love this part that says, the light you will see in any one of them is the same light you will see in them all. When we learn how to see that table differently, we are training our minds to look at everything differently, to look at chairs differently, to look at our car differently, to look at our clothing differently. Everything is seen through a different lens, to see the light in places and things, but most importantly, in people. Let's read on. When you say, above all else, I want to see this table differently, you are making a commitment to withdraw your preconceived ideas about the table and open your mind about what it is and what it is for. You are not defining it in past terms. You are asking what it is rather than telling it what it is. You are not binding its meaning to your tiny experience of tables, nor are you limiting its purpose to your little personal thoughts. Let's talk about it. In other words, we want to look at this table and ask God to guide our thinking. Dear God, please show me, what is this table for? It sounds a bit silly, doesn't it? Because we think we have it locked down. We have this idea. But in fact, a table could be used for many, many things. My children love to make a fort out of the table by draping sheets and blankets over it and dragging their pillows and all their toys in there. They had a great time, and sometimes they would stay in there all day. So a table can be used for many, many things. This is really about opening our minds up to creativity and seeing that people, places, and things don't have a meaning in and of themselves. We give it the meaning that it has, but God has a completely different idea. So when we ask, what is it for? And then just quietly wait for the answer, we may be surprised by what comes back to us. Let's read on. You will not question what you have already defined, and the purpose of these exercises is to ask questions and receive the answers. In saying, above all else, I want to see this table differently, you are committing yourself to seeing. It is not an exclusive commitment. It is a commitment that applies to the table just as much to anything else, neither more nor less. Let's talk about it. We are literally training our brains to see differently, to think differently, to recognize that when we put our old ideas onto what is right in front of us, we are not seeing at all. We have blinders on. We're preventing ourselves from seeing the truth about what that thing or situation might really be about. Let's read on. You will not question what you have already defined, and the purpose of these exercises is to ask questions and receive the answers. In saying, above all else, I want to see this table differently, you are committing yourself to seeing. It is not an exclusive commitment. It is a commitment that applies to the table just as much to anything else, neither more nor less. When we make this commitment to see the table differently, we will recognize the importance of seeing everything differently. We are training our brains to stop seeing through the eyes of the ego and see more and more through the eyes of love. Let's read on. You could, in fact, gain vision from just that table if you would withdraw all your own ideas from it and look upon it with a completely open mind. It has something to show you, something beautiful and clean and of infinite value, full of happiness and hope, hidden under all your ideas about its real purpose, the purpose it shares with the universe. Wow, I'll never look at a table the same. How about you? What is its real purpose? That is the question to ask over and over again. especially when we come up against something. I was frustrated with that lawnmower. I had already taken many breaks, and we have a fairly big complex, so it would come close and then it would fade away, and then it would come close and then fade away. And this time it stayed fairly close to me for quite a long stretch. What is its real purpose? When we can stop and ask ourselves that, we can save ourselves a whole bunch of frustration and upset. There's no reason to get upset when something is not going the way we think it should. There's always a reason. There's always a purpose. The purpose is usually to teach us a lesson. Let's read on. In using the table as a subject for applying the idea for today, you are therefore really asking to see the purpose of the universe. You will be making this same request of each subject that you use in practice periods, and you are making a commitment to each of them to let its purpose be revealed to you instead of placing your own judgment upon it. We will have 2 6-minute practice periods today in which the idea for the day is stated first and then applied to whatever you see about you. Not only should subjects be chosen randomly, but each one should be accorded equal sincerity as today's idea is applied to it, in an attempt to acknowledge the equal value of them all in their contribution to your seeing. As usual, the applications should include the name of the subject your eyes happen to light on, and you should rest your eyes on it while saying, above all else, I want to see this differently. Each application should be made quite slowly and as thoughtfully as possible. There is no hurry. Let's talk about it. As I was reading this, I was thinking about my husband. We tend to think of our partners of being for a particular purpose. If we're looking through our human eyes, through the eyes of the ego, we see that partner as being someone to keep us company, someone to help us with the responsibilities of living, someone to have fun with, someone to snuggle up to. We have all of these human ideas of what it is all about to be in relationship with someone, and particularly our partner. But through God's eyes, have we ever asked ourselves, what is this person about through God's eyes? A few things that have come to me over the years in regards to my husband. My husband has taught me to be less selfish. I have had to learn to compromise. I'm a very strong-willed person, and my husband would be the first to tell you that I can be very stubborn, but he also acknowledges that the same is true for him. So we rub up against each other. Over the years, we have sanded off a lot of the rough spots. There's still lots to go, but that's what I believe. That's what this relationship is truly for. It has helped me to grow spiritually. It has helped me to become closer and closer to who I believe God wants me to be. You may want to do this little exercise today. You may want to journal on it. Consider the important people in your lives, especially if there's someone who you feel has let you down in some way. Instead of looking at it through the eyes of ego, ask God to show you through His eyes. Say in prayer, what does this person have to show me? Why is this person in my life? Above all else, I want to see this person differently. Let's talk about our practice periods. We have our morning practice period and our evening practice period, in which we read or listen to the lesson and then stop and reflect on the idea for today. Above all else, I want to see things differently. And then in our 4 additional practice periods, we take 2 minutes. We first state the idea for the day. Above all else, I want to see things differently. And then we randomly look about us as we say to ourselves, above all else, I want to see this computer differently. Above all else, I want to see this chair differently. Above all else, I want to see these plants differently. Would you like to do this together? Just look around you now and fill in the blank. Above all else, I want to see this differently. Above all else, I want to see this differently. Above all else, I want to see this differently. Now let's think about some of the important people in our lives and fill their names into the blank. Above all else, I want to see differently. Above all else, I want to see differently. Above all else, I want to see differently. Try it. I'd love to hear how it works for you. Please send me a comment and let me know. Thanks so much for listening right until the end. Are you ready for our special treat? So I'm just sitting here waiting for the hummingbirds. There's one. There he is. They're a little shy today because I'm sitting out here. But some days we get up to 10 at a time. Above all else, I want to see things differently. Have a glorious day, my friend, in which you see all things through God's eyes. I love you.